Hello and welcome to the Boro Breakdown podcast, the lowdown on Alex Mowatt with Jonny and Dana. We are the Boro podcast that gives you all of your Alex Mowatt chatter in a podcast. And on Saturday, Boro announced the signing of, guess who? Alex Mowatt. The Yorkshireman joined on a season-long loan and is expected to be the replacement for Marcus Tavernier on that left-hand side of play. And just before we get our thoughts on the new signing, we thought we'd get some insight from Joe and Louis Bent from the Baggies podcast. So here is 4 minutes on Boro's new number 4.
Morning, Dana, and all the Boro fans. I feel like I'm going to get a regular feature if I keep coming on at this pace. But jokes aside, Alex Mowatt, obviously he was our captain, and in the season we nearly got promoted a couple of seasons back. He was brilliant for us. A really tough start to life at Barnsley. His first game he got sent off, and then he ended up out on loan at Oxford. So there was a big period of time for the first couple of years, I think, where we were kind of like, is Alex Mowatt going to do it for us? What's going to happen? He came back and earned himself a starting place, and over time grew as a player, became better. Weren't always consistently great every single game, I have to admit, and I know some Barnsley fans might disagree with that, but for me personally, I remember a time at the beginning of that season where we got into the playoffs, and we were debating whether he was the best option to start, because we had Matty James from Leicester, we had Ramal Palmer at the time was playing really well, and a few others. So but then what happened was he really did step it up massively in that second half of the season. He showed his true leadership qualities. He got us through so many games by leading the team. He's obviously got an absolutely amazing left foot that's well documented from his goals. So Alex, when he's on it, is a brilliant player and certainly top-end championship. It's just, for me, just needs to have that consistency in his game and play at that level consistently week in, week out. If you can get that out of him, which I'm sure Chris Wilder will, he'll be a cracking player for you.
Hello to everyone at the Boro Breakdown podcast. It's Louis Bent here from the Baggies podcast, here to give my thoughts on Alex Mowatt, who has joined yourselves on a season-long loan from West Bromwich Albion. So, I suppose it's a bit of a weird one because he was a new signing for us last season, a marquee signing, I'd also go to say, under Valérien Ismaël, who brought him in, having coached him at Barnsley. And he seemed like a really good fit for Ismaël's system and did really well for Barnsley to get them into the playoffs. He was the captain. Seemed like the person who's going to kind of try and help our current players embed into his philosophy. And like I think Ismaël, he started the first 5 or 6 games really, really well. He looked composed, he looked box to box, he looked all energy. And like Ismaël's system, I think he faded away as the season went on. He picked up an injury towards the end of last season with his groin, I think, which ended up needing surgery. He played through it quite a lot. So he kind of struggled with injury a little bit, but we didn't see the Mowatt that we saw from those first 5 games again, really. And I think Bruce has kind of come in, he's seen him, he's not really seen much he likes about him. I think Mowatt's very, very much suited to a 3 at the back formation, where essentially he can help overlap, or he can come into wide areas and help cross the ball rather than having to stay down the centre and cover central areas. So I think, I said on my podcast yesterday, I said that Mowatt's probably the perfect player for a wilder system. So I am a little surprised he's gone out on loan. I'm a little surprised we've loaned him to a team that I consider to be, up in that, well, obviously not quite at the moment, but up in that top 6 towards the end of the season. I believe that you guys will still be there, and I hope that we are too. I think I'm surprised that he's loaned out to yourselves. I know that he's a big earner at the club, so that kind of contributes. We do need a striker now that Daryl DK's injured again. So I think it's a bit of a gamble from Bruce to kind of take this and let Mowatt go in return for hopefully bringing in that striker. So we'll see, but I think time will tell whether this is a good move. But I can see him flourishing in a wilder side. I just think he's the perfect player for it.
So thanks for that, Louis and Joe. And Joe, you can have a regular slot on the Boro Breakdown podcast if you want to. We can make that happen. Our people will talk to your people. So Alex Mowatt then was thrown into action pretty much on the Sunday against Sheffield United. How do you think he fared, and do you think he's going to be a good signing for Boro?
Yeah, I think he is going to be a good signing for us. I hope anyway. He has all the attributes to fit the Wilder system, as Joe and Louis have alluded to. And I thought he was good. He played 37 minutes. He came on around the hour mark. And I thought he showed a lot of good technical ability on the ball. He looks really comfortable with it. There was a part where he moved away from Sander Berge, really nice footwork, good touches away from him. And what I noticed as well is he kept making runs off Sander Berge. And it was a kind of theme throughout when he came on. He was constantly looking for where Sander Berge was, but also where the space was off him. And I think Sander Berge in the second half, his influence wasn't really as big as it was in the first, because you had Alex Mowatt constantly making those runs off him, constantly making those runs away from him, and finding spaces, picking up pockets of space to try to progress the ball. And there was two moves actually, or three moves, where he kind of did set off a chance for Middlesbrough. He played a pass into Riley McGree, and then he made a run off Sander Berge, as I've said, into some space of his own. And then that resulted in Riley McGree putting the ball into the box. Unfortunately, the header was cleared. But then there was another move where it was the chance, Riley McGree's chance, where unfortunately his right-footed shot went high and wide. It was Alex Mowatt that started that move. With that nice footwork that I mentioned there, he threaded a ball through down the wing to Isaiah Jones. And then there was another one, the Duncan Watmore chance that hit the post, started by a combination of Alex Mowatt and Riley McGree. So I thought he was good in the flashes that we saw. He had a great passing accuracy, 88%, 14 passing successful out of 16. And yeah, he looked good. It was a promising cameo, obviously not the full scale of what we'll see from Alex Mowatt. But yeah, and interestingly enough, that was the second time in 3 days that he'd played Sheffield United when I had a look, because he played against the Blades for the Baggies in the Cup on Thursday, then played against the Blades for Boro on Sunday. So interesting little quirk there.
Yeah, and he's been at Riverside Stadium already this year as well. So I feel like he's just doing a little triangle, isn't he? Us, West Brom, and Sheffield United. That is going to be his season. But yeah, I think it's a good signing as well. It's definitely what we needed. I think we obviously with Tab going, I think someone with really good championship experience, someone who is going to come in and make this team better. I think it's going to happen because of that. But what do you think he can bring to the club then in terms of his stature, performances? Is there anything else that we can add?
I think he's just a really well-rounded midfielder. He's defensively sound, forward-thinking. He's good at set pieces in terms of he's got a good delivery on him. Everyone talks about his left foot. I always feel like you either got a cultured left foot or you don't have a foot at all, because nobody says anything about a right foot, do they? They don't say you have an amazing right foot. But yeah, I think he's good with his decision-making as well in terms of his pass selection. Watching a few of his clips when he was at West Brom, he's constantly scanning to try to find those spaces to pick up. To basically offer a passing opportunity for his teammates and to see where the next best pass is himself. And he has been consistently a very good progressive passer amongst central midfielders in the Championship, a rank of 11th, 2nd and 3rd in the last 3 seasons. And then moving before that, when he was in League One, he was ranked 4th for progressive passes. And people might say, well, it's, Valerian Ishmael ball at Barnsley. It was very high energy and tried to get the ball at the pitch as quickly as possible with, long balls to the wide areas. But it precedes Valerian Ishmael. So it's very much not a stylistic thing for Alex Mowatt. It's a core attribute of him. And watching a few of his clips, as I've said, he always tries to look for the pass that does progress the play. And I feel like with him, we might not see a lot of assists from him, but keep an eye on his passes, because he will be the one that starts moves. He might get pre-assists, he might get even pre-assists. I think his pass selection is very good, and his decision making is very good with it as well. And as something that we've seen throughout his career so far, he is a potent threat from long range with his shooting. And 18 of the 28 goals he scored in his career so far have been from outside the box. So you think about casual wingy banger, we might have to rename that to casual Mowatt banger, because he has a knack for it. But yeah, in the 2020-21 season, he ranked 2nd for goals per 90, scored 8 goals, but an XG of 4.4. So you speak about overperformance of shot performance, but it feeds into the narrative of him being good from range, and obviously the sort of low expected goals chances are those long ranges. So yeah, I think he's a threat from distance, but a potential weakness of him, what I've seen from Baggies fans, is that he's a bit slow. He's a bit on the slower side, so I don't expect him to be his full pelt in tracking back and doing his defensive work as Tav is. So lack of pace there, potential issue.
Yeah, but I think positioning can cover that. If he has good position on the pitch, and I think we'll come on to his heat map in a second, but having a good position in your play can really mitigate that potential risk. But I think with the graph that you pulled there, it was quite nice to see Lewis Swing on there, Matt Crooks, George
I noticed
Saville.
that.
Like all former Boro players doing the bit. I mean, why couldn't they do it in a Boro shirt, as some Boro fans would say? But yeah, I think when we want to compare Mowatt and Tav, I think obviously they are different players to pretty much to compare. They've both played different positions. If you want to get like a heat map up on them, you can see Tav is very much more of like a wing player, or has played most of his career on the wing. But then as Mowatt, he's played more of a probably more half space central quarterback role. I think that's where he flourishes. And like you were saying there, then it really feeds into that narrative of progressive passer, can find a good pass. And he's also the person that can start the move and could be the passer who could be the connector between that 3, 4, 5 passes. And I think that's really promising. And to be honest, it makes Boro a bit more dangerous as well, because he adds a different dimension as well. That long range strike he's got. He always scores goals from afar. So it seems like it could be a really good move for Boro as well in terms of that front, and just making that 1% difference, which I think is massive in the Championship as well. So
yeah, and what Louis said as well.
Yeah.
What Louis said as well about the combination play drifting out wide as well. He does have a good delivery on him from wide areas with his, you see from set pieces from that sort of area. So I'm just thinking about that combination play, the triangles on the right, emulating that on the left. I think he could be a big part of that.
Yeah, gives us balance. Absolutely gives us balance. And then
indeed.
just, should we break them down a little bit further? Then, is there anything else that we can compare them with?
Tav and Mowatt.
Yeah,
is that
Tav and Mowatt? Yeah.
Yeah, I think the key difference with the pair of them is that Tav's probably more of a dribbler. Last season, 3.85 dribbles per 90 for Tav, Mowatt on 0.99. Tav had almost 5 times the amount of dribbles that Mowatt did last season. But I think they're both quite high frequency shooters. Tav had 203 shots in his last 3 seasons, Mowatt on 189 in the same time. But Mowatt was more clinical last season, a goal conversion rate of 10.52. Tav's is about 6%. So I think with them, Tav's more obviously his position in the team. Tav's more of a number 8, isn't he? And then last season under Bruce, they played with 2 holding midfielders. So he was a 6, really. He was a deeper sort of midfielder. So with that, Tav's progressive movements are going to be really more through dribbling than through passes, whereas it's going to be the other way around with Mowatt. So Mowatt's probably the more progressive passer last season due to his position in the team. And one of the key differences, of course, what we've already mentioned, is the pace. Tav, fantastic at getting back, having the recovery pace to get back and track back. Mowatt probably not so much, but I'm interested to hear your thoughts about how Jonny Howson would kind of help Alex Mowatt with that as well, because he, playing with a 3 at the back, Howson being that cover, that screen, if you like, I think it could be a really good dynamic between the 3 midfielders.
Yeah, it's the power of Yorkshire, I think, in midfield at the moment. With those 3. But and the Yorkshire manager as well, just absolute team Yorkshire, isn't it? But I think with that, in terms of like how Howson can cover, I just don't think Howson will get caught as much. I think you'll probably see Middlesbrough, they might rotate ever so slightly to a 2, and then let Crooks be a bit more progressive as Boro go forward. It kind of limits the counter attack, which I think we've been prone to over the last couple of games with the high wing backs. I think our recovery hasn't been as strong. I think with Tav leaving, obviously you do lose a little bit of legs, but I think with Mowatt and Howson now, you've got more of a structure there, and I think that'll defensively probably stop that left hand side being cut open probably a little bit more than we've seen previously. But that's what we expected anyway, because of Ryan Giles, because he's so attacking and he's so good on the ball and getting the ball in the box. It was always going to happen that teams are going to probably have some sort of counter-attack to that. But I think with Mowatt coming in now, I think it's a really, really good sign for us in terms of structure, balance, and it gives us a little bit more in that midfield. But in terms of him coming in, I think obviously Riley McGree's already occupying the 8th spot already. And to be fair, he's played well, loves that through ball. He's also just he's becoming the player that we think he is. He's very, very silky, but we all know that number 10 role. He's looking good there as well. But do you think this could spark a potential tactical tweak from Wilder? Do you think that we might maybe change the way we're playing? Could it be a one up top job, or do you think he's going to replace Riley McGree in that midfield?
I think it could be a one up top job for now, but it's interesting with McGree, isn't it? Because we recorded this yesterday. This is a re-record of the Mowatt pod. And I said on that recording that I'm not 100% sold on McGree as a number 10. But then I watched the game back from Sunday and I thought he picked up some really good positions. I still think Riley McGree picks up good positions as a number 8, but the better positions I feel like he picks up as a number 10. So there could be potential there for him to be a number 10. And I think we spoke to a few Birmingham fans about Riley McGree, didn't we? And I'm sure they said that he could play in that position and he looked good in that position. I'd be interested to see where he plays for Australia, actually. But I wouldn't write him off as a number 8. I think it's just good to have competition there in that left-sided central midfield area, because obviously with Tav leaving, we didn't have that for a little bit, whereas now we do. It kind of takes the pressure off Riley McGree a little bit, and I don't think he's been great. He hasn't been bad, but I don't think he's stood out in the games that we've seen of him so far. So hopefully with a little bit of competition there now, maybe it actually puts the pressure on him and it makes him deliver better performances, because now he's got the player kind of breathing down his neck there, and Alex Mowatt, and a very good player at that. So yeah, I think it's only good. It's only good for McGree and it's only good for Middlesbrough that we've got this depth and quality and depth as well, because Mowatt's a very combative, all-round creative, just a very good midfielder.
Yeah, and I think with him coming in as well, it kind of solves the problem of Marcus Forss as well in terms of like the link-up play. I know you spoke about it on the pod on the Sunday, but when Riley McGree plays as that number 10, it's going to make things a little bit better for Forss, because Forss just doesn't like to build up plays. A bit more of a dribbler, get it in the box, and hopefully he'll put it away. And he will do that. I just think with Riley McGree, it connects the play a little bit more. It brings more players into play. He can be a bit more fluid and get behind the number 9 and try and create extra space. And it could see Middlesbrough change ever so slightly. He could do a 3-5, a 3-5-1-1, or not a 3-5. Yeah, 3-5-1-1. Yeah. So I was like, wait a minute. No, I was like, yeah.
That was literally me at the Sheffield United game the other day. I was like, what formation are we playing? 3-5 what? There it is, like, 3-5 what?
it's do you know when you say like 3-5-2 and you think, oh yeah, well, but when you say
so
it's 1-1, you're like, oh right, okay.
Yeah.
But that could see Boro maybe change to that formation, and obviously that does help you occupy the midfield a little bit more. It enables you to be more fluid in those tight moments. And I think it's a good move for Boro. I think just across the board, I think Alex Mowatt can help us defensively in terms of that quarterback and that quarterback role and limit us on being countered, but also his striking ability, good pass like you mentioned there. But finally, all going well, Dana. You campaigned for it last year around it, but Alex Mowatt, do you think Boro could make it a permanent deal, or would you like to see? I know it's only been one game. There's plenty of football to be played, but hand on heart, do you think would you like to see it?
I think it depends how he plays, obviously,
Okay.
but I do think he has all the attributes to fit really well, and he could well be, the counter press from the Valérien Ismaël style. We could see that. I think he's obviously adept at doing that as well. I think in terms of a replacement for Tav, I think as good as we could probably get that's available. And now we'll just see how he plays. I can't make a decision on that right now, but yeah, I obviously wanted him when he was at Barnsley. His contract was expiring, so 12 months later we've finally got him. I'm hoping that I do come to a decision that I do want Alex Mowatt, because then that means that he's been a success.
Okay, then I'm going to just say, just sign him, sack it. Put my head on, put my neck on the line, and sign him. But no, I'm joking. But that's it, Dana. Thank you very much for joining me as always, and to the listeners and the viewers, thank you very much for listening and watching us on your podcast provider or on YouTube. If you haven't already, do subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed on your podcast provider, please do. That helps us get found and other Boro fans find us. But for right now, this has been the Boro Breakdown podcast, and that was your Alex Mowatt chatter in a pod. Up the Boro Breakdown.